Economy and International Fellow for the Wilson Center. We welcome you, Doctor. And at the outset, we are talking about the reasons that Oliver Bloom talked about, the former CEO of the company, and he said that the economic environment is not with the same easiness in Germany, especially with the new players entering the European market and the regression of Germany's competition. How do you see this and its relationship with what happened with Volkswagen?
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to speak with you. I think we have to look at Germany as a case of a bit of a special case within Europe that has a difficulty in staying competitive. But Germany is even in a more difficult situation. It's a very export-driven model, and of course, automobiles and other electromechanical devices are at the center of their whole economic model. And they've got many problems in this regard. It's not just the results of COVID and so forth. You had the reliance on Russian gas, and there was the cutoff of the Russian gas. Germany already had one of the highest prices of energy in the world, in Europe especially, and that drove the price through the roof for a long time. And Germany hasn't completely recovered from this. Also, the automobile companies were pushed by the government, especially with the influence of the Green Party, but by the government to convert to electric cars, but faster than was really realistic. And so then they have to backtrack. That's a huge investment and a huge reversal, and that caused difficulties. On top of it, there's a number of problems with uncompetitiveness, difficulty in getting skilled labor. There's less Germans, and it's difficult to get skilled migrants. There's the cost of labor, of course, is higher here, and so forth. And they also have a problem with digitalization in the country. And so all around, it's a very difficult situation for German business, for German export model, and especially automobiles.
Dr. Thomas, the reports talk about the fact that there is a retreat, maybe for the appetite of consumers in Europe with regard to buying Volkswagen cars. Is this related to the new tastes or maybe the directions of different consumers in general?
Well, that's a difficult question to isolate, because if you look at it, Mercedes in Germany is also having difficulties, and so is BMW. So there might be something particular about one brand versus the other. This push by the government to get everything green very fast, who can argue with you have to do something about climate change very fast? But if the technology simply isn't there, and what we're finding is there's a lot of resistance amongst buyers to buy electric vehicles. The German government has had targets and big subsidies to get people to buy, and even so, the buying isn't really happening for a number of reasons. It's not just that the infrastructure isn't there for charging the cars, but there's other issues. And the other thing is the Chinese have been essentially dumping electric automobiles on the market in Europe at a very low price. So now the European Union is thinking about some kind of protectionism, right, by putting steep tariffs on the cars. The United States put put tariffs on Chinese cars. There's the competition from China is significant in Europe, and that is a problem that they have to deal with.
In your opinion, how will the company preserve the rights of workers in light of trying to end the agreement that used to guarantee for them their rights until the end of 2029?
Yes. Well,
this is also related to the compensations that it will have to pay for the workers.
Yes, no, I understand. In the German industrial model, the workers are very involved through workers' councils in the decisions of the company. And they have this great guarantee from the company starting, I think it was in 1994 or something like that, almost 30 years ago. But, you know, the guarantees sound great, but if on the other hand, if the company can't sell cars, and for the first time in 87 years, ever, in the history of the company, they're thinking of closing a couple plants. One plant, I understand, they think the manufacturing plant is really not up to standards for today's standards, and also some parts plants. So they're going to have to negotiate with the workers. I know that, you know, German industry would be happy to have those kind of close relationships with secure, close relationship with labor. But in these times, it's the company and the workers who are going to get hurt. If I could just say, this is within a scenario where we've been talking here in Germany, I've been warning about it for some years. It's not just the loss of competitiveness, it's actually getting to the point of deindustrialization. It reminds me very much when I worked in the American auto industry myself in the mid-1970s in the US, and suddenly American cars weren't competitive, and it was a terrible shock to American industry. It took 15, 20 years for them to catch up in automobiles. And I think Germany feels like it's entering a similar period where there'll be deindustrialization, especially of energy-intensive industries. It's not only auto. I could tell you the same story about German steel, Thyssen-Krupp. I could tell you the same story about chemical, BASF, for example. All the energy-intensive industries are not making it through this energy transition the way the government is doing it. Pushing too fast when the new green technology is not yet ready and puts them in a difficult position.
Dr. Thomas O'Donnell, Professor of Economy from Berlin, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
الأخير في المراقب حيث ارتفعت أسعار العقارات في بريطانيا بأسرع وتيرة منذ ديسمبر 2022 بينما تسود التوقعات بتواصل الارتفاعات إذا خفض بنك إنجلترا المركزي أسعار الفائدة مرة أخرى قبل نهاية العام. نتابع هذا العرض.